Hey guys, it's Lizzie. So I got a question from Snapchat and it's about mental illness, depression, and bipolar. And so I'm just gonna read the question and answer it in this video. And I also wanted to say, because I saw a comment on, I think my last video, and someone was saying like, I know you don't take video requests, and I always take video requests. Like, when did I ever say I do not take video requests? So yeah, I just wanted to clarify that if you're new here, that I always, like, the reason I make my videos is because people have given me questions. That's where most of my video content comes from. I know it just seems like I talk about my life just like impulsively, randomly for no reason, but there's actually people like requesting the videos that I make. It's not just me like ranting to the camera for no reason. So just like how last video, the whole video was just responding to one Twitter question, that's how this video is going to be, and I want a lot more of my videos to be simple like that. So if you do ever have a video request, I read all of the comments on my recent videos and I check my Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, so I hope that clarifies everything for you guys. So this is a really long message, so I'm gonna put it up on the screen and then just read the parts that are relevant to you guys. So she's been diagnosed with depression and ADHD. She thinks she may have bipolar, but then this is the part that I want to talk about. My parents don't understand that I am hurting and I need help. They think I just have ADHD and depression, but the stuff that I had been doing hasn't been working and I just feel so empty. I'm not sad, I don't feel anything. That's what leads me to self-harm when that happens. But then all of a sudden I hit this high point and everything is great and I can write stories, really vivid stories, and I draw a lot and I do all of these wonderful things, but then all of a sudden it's gone. Afterwards I feel worse than normal. I don't know what to do to tell my parents that I feel like I have bipolar. I'm afraid that they will push me away because they did when I told them I thought I had depression. He loves me, I know, and I think she's talking about God, or he is talking about God. But they don't understand that I'm hurting. I'm so confused because I feel like I'm riding a roller coaster all the time. I promised to make this video like weeks ago, so I'm really sorry that it has taken me so long. So I have parents and I have bipolar and I had depression before I had my bipolar diagnosis. So I've gone through all of this, but I think for me it's been a lot easier because I was dealing with this when I was in college and I was an adult, so I was kind of in control of scheduling out the visits and finding a psychiatrist, deciding to go on medicine, doing all the research for the medicine. My friends were the ones who were seeing all the symptoms, not my parents. They were further away from it, and so I think in some ways it was a lot easier because I was independent from it. But then in another way, it was so much worse from their perspective because they had no control of what was going on. They didn't even see what was going on. All that was happening with them is they were hearing about it after the fact. And so I think that created a ton of tension, and I think I did talk about this in my bipolar story video. It was like a 30-minute video I made. It was like I was sitting on the white bed. I had like a blue and white flower shirt. Do you guys remember that video? I'll link it right here if you haven't seen it. But I talked about in the story kind of like how it was dealing with my parents and how when I first went on medicine for depression, it was like this really, really bad reaction, and I like didn't go home that summer break at all. Like I didn't talk to them for a month just because it just felt so toxic what was happening. And looking back, it wasn't even that they were denying I had depression. It was just they were so scared and freaking out, and I think like my dad yelled at me over the phone or something, and that was kind of like the last straw where I was like, okay, like I cannot handle this right now when I'm dealing with severe depression. Like I need people around me to just be calm and peaceful and not so angry. And that's what I think, like, I want you to know. Number one, if your parent is not accepting your mental illness, or just in general, anything about you, when your parent is really, really angry at you, they're not angry at you necessarily, they're angry at the fact that you are dealing with the mental illness. So they're angry that you have depression, that you're suffering. They wish that you could just be healthy and free and happy, and instead you're dealing with this thing that's really, really hurting you and affecting you, and they feel out of control and powerless, and so they're angry, and they're not angry at you. They're angry at the illness. And I know like it's happening within your brain, so they need to like figure out, and I know like it's completely their fault because it's happening within your brain, and in the case of bipolar especially, it's a part of who you are, and so they can't be angry at the condition and not be angry at you, especially because it's going on inside your body. And so if they express all this anger towards your mental illness, then obviously you're gonna feel like they're yelling at you and hating on you. And so I think that that's definitely their fault. Like, they need to work on that. I wish I could talk to your parents, and anyone who's watching this, if your parents are not accepting, like, email me. I will Skype with your parents and explain to them about depression and bipolar. I'm serious. I hate how parents can't be accepting about this and just research it and try to be supportive. But I don't know if that helps at all, but just knowing that they're not denying it necessarily and they're not angry at you, they're just so overwhelmed and upset and scared that you're hurting and they don't even know what to do, and so they're just emotionally frozen into this like anger thing that makes it feel like they're pushing you away. And they are pushing you away by just reacting rather than asking questions and just stopping and really making sure that you are okay. There's like a lot of things I want to say with this, but I think the first one is that if you do not have to tell your parents and you think they will react bad, then don't tell your parents. It's kind of like when you come out as gay. I'm not gay, but when people do come out and their parents are gonna have a really negative reaction, sometimes people will wait until they've graduated high school and are out of the house so that they don't have to deal with the reaction when it's really bad. So I think it's the same with this. If your parent is just gonna deny that you have a mental illness, then why even bring it up with your parents when you could just talk about it with your friends or with your siblings and they could give you emotional support? You know what I mean? Like, unless you absolutely need your parents to like book you therapist appointments or to like buy you medicine, like, don't bring it up unless it's absolutely necessary. And if you're in college and you're getting it treated and you're like in the middle of a really, really, really bad severe depression episode and your parents would not be able to handle knowing what's going on, then they don't need to know. Like, primarily you need to take care of yourself, and that might mean in the meantime keeping them in the dark on what's going on. And if they get hurt or offended by that later, that's their fault for being an emotionally incompetent person. Yeah, and so if you ever feel like you need to shut your parent out at any point, not give them information on what's going on, do not feel bad about that because they're an adult. And if you're the child, you're younger than them, and you're seeing that they're not able to react to things in an emotionally calm, mature way, then that's their problem. And you do not at all need to feel guilty for having to shut them out to protect yourself emotionally. But I think that if you are in high school or just home for a break or on their insurance, there's just a ton of situations where it would be like they really need to know what is going on and they need to be able to accept it. So I think that what needs to happen is your parent needs to just like ask you questions and try to understand, but for some reason that isn't the go-to. And so what I recommend instead is giving them resources to read. And so maybe finding a chapter of a book about bipolar or about depression and just like giving it to them and telling them to read it, or like an audiobook or an article. There's so many articles and even YouTube videos. You could share with them my YouTube videos talking about depression. If you just share resources with them, then they'll read it and try to understand. And I think that like your parents, and even if this isn't your parents, like your significant other, your friend, anyone in your life, they want to support you and understand you. They just do not know how, and they're so just like emotionally frozen sometimes because it seems so awful and they don't know what to do. And so if they do not know how to ask you the right questions, you can just give them the information and tell them to read it. For me, with my parents, if I tell them something about bipolar, because I have bipolar, it's almost like I'm not a valid source on that, which is so weird because of course I'm like the most valid source on it, more so than like my doctor, since like I actually live it. But for some reason your parents just will not view you as legit, even though like you're dealing with all of the symptoms. And so if you're able to give them information from another person talking about it, or from an article on it, or a medical journal, or even you can Google the DSM, that's the name of the American Psychiatric Association. The DSM is just like the diagnostic manual. It has like all the criteria for diagnosing an episode, and so you can even just like email them, you can just like text them or message them a link to that and be like, hey, like look at these symptoms, I feel like this is what I might have. And I think just in general in relationships, just any type of relationship with anything, writing things down is sometimes the most important way to communicate if you're dealing with something that's kind of tense, just because if people are able to like read it and think about it and analyze it before responding, then it will just like decrease the likelihood of having some like blowout emotional interaction. And so if you feel like your parents are not able to process it and handle it, just send them an email or write them a really long note and just have like resources linked in, YouTube videos linked in, and kind of just explain to them what is going on and like make an argument. And you could even say at the beginning, and I know it's weird if you're living with your parents, but still, like, you could just be like, hey, like, I had a lot of thoughts on like what's been going on with my depression, and I wrote out a letter to kind of explain my thoughts better because it's hard for me to put my emotions into words. Like, make it seem like you're writing the letter because it's your fault, even though it's like on them. Yeah, so just tell them that you wrote them a letter on the computer, have them read it, and then you can say in the letter, hey, like, one of the reasons why I wanted to write it out instead is because the last time you reacted to my depression, I know you didn't mean it like this, but it felt like you didn't love me as much because I had depression. It felt like you were shutting me out, and that hurt me so much. It made me so sad, and I need you so much right now. So just tell them that during the letter. Be like, please do not react the same way. You reacted like this and it really hurt me. Don't do it again. And then this is how not to do it again. And so most people are not intentionally going out of their way to hurt you. Like, most people in your life do not want to hurt you. And so if you communicate to them directly, this is exactly what you did to hurt me. This is how to not hurt me in the same way again. If you give them that option, then they will probably choose to change, even if it is uncomfortable, to not hurt you. But I think too, just a warning, I think most people, especially the older generations, they're very wary of diagnosing ourselves. And so, like, for me, I diagnosed myself with bipolar, and I was correct, and I still would not be diagnosed if I hadn't diagnosed myself and gone and gotten treatment. And I think that's how it is with most mental illnesses. Everyone just isn't randomly going to a psychiatrist and happens to be diagnosed. It's like, we see a problem and we're like, hey, this might resemble what I've heard about bipolar being, or what I've heard about anxiety being, and then you go and get diagnosed. And so, I don't know, for some reason though, when it comes to like hardcore mental illnesses like bipolar, people just freak out when they think like you're diagnosing yourself. They think it's like so awful. But I think it's kind of normal. Like, it's good if we all have a general understanding of bipolar and that people can notice it in themselves and then go get help. Like, that should be exactly how it is with getting diagnosed. But I understand too how your parents think it's really sketchy. So just like expect them to react bad, I guess is all I'm saying. Like, if you're trying to diagnose yourself and you're in high school, your parents are just not going to, they're not going to like intuitively agree with that approach. And there's nothing you can do about it. You're just gonna have to wait, and it might take a couple of years for them to calm down, but they will calm down. Like, my parents, initially, they just like were not doing a good job with handling it and with like communicating with me about it, but now they're amazing. Like, they've accepted it so well, and I can talk about them openly. I can talk to them openly about my symptoms, and they help me deal with certain symptoms. But I also think it matters a lot less your parents' opinion on the diagnosis, because it will probably take them a few years to accept it regardless. But what matters right now is that you are getting the treatment that you need. And so tell your parents to take you to a psychiatrist rather than a general doctor. And even if you didn't think you had bipolar, this would still be a good idea. It's the same exact price as a regular doctor if you have insurance, and so it's not a financial thing at all. But there is a really long waiting list in a lot of states to get to see a psychiatrist, so try to set up an appointment as soon as possible, and try to ask around if you know anyone in your life who has a mental illness of which psychiatrist to go to, and also maybe just Google and try to find one that specializes in bipolar. Because I found that I live in Florida, and Florida is extremely legalistic in diagnosing bipolar. So right now, you would not be able to be diagnosed. I think now I've had enough manic episodes to where I could be diagnosed, but like initially I would not have been able to be diagnosed with bipolar in the state of Florida because they're so legalistic in how they diagnose it. Which this could be like a whole other video, how to like argue, how to persuade your psychiatrist to give you medicine. Anyways, but point being, regardless of what your parents think, just tell them that you want to see an actual psychiatrist because your medicine isn't working. Also, that you want to see a therapist. I think the therapist can help you the absolute most because the therapist will give you more like personal one-on-one time than the psychiatrist. Some psychiatrists are just like, they'll see you for like 10 minutes and then leave. Whereas the therapist, every therapist will talk to you for like a full out hour. And if explain to the therapist how you think you might have, you know, early onset bipolar symptoms, he or she will be able to take a lot more time and to fully listen to everything you're saying about your symptoms. And so I recommend going to your therapist with everything you sent me, doing more research, and literally like typing up a report, like an argument with like all this evidence for why you have bipolar, and showing it to your therapist. And I'm gonna link below the DSM criteria as well. So look at the DSM criteria, look at your life, make the connections, make an argument, and once you tell your therapist, the therapist can give you the official diagnosis. And then if your parents meet the therapist and the therapist tells your parents the official diagnosis, then your parents have to take it seriously because they're talking to a medical professional. And not all parents will take it seriously. I think my dad is someone who's still like, he just has a very like scientific, analytical mind. My parents are so intelligent, both of them. And so I think it's hard for them to just see like, oh, one person is talking to my child for an hour and then they diagnose them with mental illness. Like, to my parents, it's hard to believe that. And so if yours are very intelligent and analytical as well, then that might not work 100%, but it's a start. All I'm saying though is just going to a therapist consistently will be able to get you the correct diagnosis in an efficient way, and it will help your parents to understand it. And you can even tell your therapist to do a session with you and your parents, and you can tell your therapist, hey, my parents are reacting horribly to my mental illness. It's awful. I cry. I feel like they're pushing me away from them. It's making my depression worse. I don't know what to do. Tell your therapist that, and your therapist is trained to fix relationships and to get everyone to communicate about their emotions. And so I think your therapist could do a joint session with you and your mom, or you and your dad, or everyone together, even your siblings, and could help explain everyone to everyone else. And they could even do one-on-one just with your parents, talking about you to your parents to explain to them what's going on. And so I think that's honestly what your parents really need, and also what they want. I just think, like I said at the beginning, they're emotionally frozen because they're so scared and angry, and they don't want you to be going through this. They want you to just be happy and whole, and I want you to be happy and whole as well. And I'm really, really, really sad that you have bipolar, because I love bipolar. It's a part of my personality. It's a part of your personality, and it's beautiful. It's something so beautiful. Just the way you describe the manic spikes. It's just like, it's so amazing and fun, and I'm just reading that and I can feel that because I experience that a lot. But then you crash back down into depression, and it's just like these cycles and cycles and cycles, and I don't know when it will ever stop for you, but I just really, really hope that you can get on a different medicine. And something else, even if you do live in a legalistic state, they give mood stabilizers to patients with depression sometimes. And so if you're going one-on-one, like if you're going to your psychiatrist without your parent there, if it's just you and your psychiatrist, I recommend that you research bipolar medicines. Just do a ton of your own research and just figure out which one you want to go on. Like for me, I was gonna say my bipolar is more depression, but it's not anymore. It's more mania now. But what really helped me with my depression was this medicine called Lamictal or Lamotrigine. And it was when I had more of just depression, and then like I'd have like these tiny hypomanic spikes. But I was on Lamotrigine with antidepressant called duloxetine, and with another mood stabilizer called lithium. But point being, I had not been officially diagnosed with bipolar. I had just been diagnosed with depression with hypomanic type things that were not the DSM criteria, and that legalistic psychiatrist gave me mood stabilizer medicine. So all I'm saying is, if you do a ton of your own research, talk to your doctor, say that you want to be put on mood stabilizer medicine, you have the name of the medicine, you can explain it to them, then they will put you on the medicine you want to be on. And you don't even need to tell your parents that happened. You can just say, oh yeah, like the psychiatrist put me on this medicine. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I guess you are in control of what's going on in your brain. You are in control of your medicine and your treatment plan in so many ways, and you don't realize it, but you are in control if you want to be. And so take initiative, research everything on your own, write out arguments for your parents, for your therapist, for your psychiatrist, and keep fighting for your diagnosis, because that's what I had to do, and it takes a long time and it's exhausting dealing with our healthcare system, but you deserve to be happy and to feel whole and to never ever feel the urge to self-harm again. You are beautiful and your life has so much value, and just the way you describe your creativity and the mania is just amazing, and it's It's something that you're going to create so many beautiful things that can inspire other people and help to impact the world. And so yeah, you deserve to get better and to just get this as much balanced out as you can. And just be patient with your parents though, and forgive them, because they will change and it will take time and it'll hurt you so much in the process. But they don't know what they're doing. They've never done this before. They've never seen a kid go through bipolar. And I know if I was watching myself go through this, I would be crying all the time, just like watching what I have to go through, because it's so bad. And so I cannot imagine a parent seeing a kid dealing with this. Like, I hope my kids do not have bipolar. Like, it will be horrible, horrible having to watch that. So I hope this answered your question enough, and I made an entire video how to come out about depression and bipolar just in general to everyone, so I'm gonna link that below as well. Definitely go watch that. It has a lot of overlapping material, but also if you're talking about this with your friends or your boyfriend or girlfriend, anyone like that. I've linked below the playlist of all my videos about bipolar disorder. I hope that it can help you out. And really quick also, I'm making a video probably in 2 weeks. I have the video script written out, but how to love someone with bipolar disorder. So it's kind of going to be a video you can share with your friends or family members if you are bipolar, on like how to help you through it. So definitely come back to my channel in a couple weeks, find that video and send it to your parents and just tell them to watch it. And I think that will help them to take care of you better and to understand it. Because ultimately that's it. Like, people just don't know what to do. Like, they don't know how to help. And like, to us, it's so obvious like what you can do to help, but for them, they don't know. So that is everything for this video. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.